Hi, I'm Victor Martin. I'm Principal Cloud Engineer at Oracle Cloud, and today we are going to talk about networking on Oracle Cloud. So here on the screen, I have the basic network configuration that you can create. So basically, as we can see, we have a virtual cloud network, all of this, and that is the CIDR block for the VCN. Inside of that VCN, we have a public subnet and a private one. And both has one virtual machine each, that one and that one. Now, there are some other components that I need to mention. So that public subnet needs connection with internet. We are going to do that with an internet gateway. So that virtual machine will go through the internet gateway into the internet. And that means that internet can make requests inside of that VCN. Always if we enable the firewall rules, but we will talk about that in a minute. After that, we have our virtual machine in the private subnet, and that one is going to have access to internet through the Nat Gateway. The Nat Gateway has a small trick that you can communicate from this virtual machine to outside, to the internet, but the internet cannot get through this NAT gateway inside of the virtual cloud network, inside of the public subnet. What is the advantage of that? Well, all of the machines, that one and that one, needs to get updates, security patches, everything from the internet. So basically that is a way to enable that, but they still have a highly protected virtual machine running on the private subnet. For example, our databases. Per subnet, we have a root table and a security list. We have the same for the private and the public subnet. And the root table is basically a table where you can select how to reach different destinations. So basically we have some examples here, but everything will go into the NAT gateway, everything will go into the service gateway, etc. And we have the security list, and the security list is a firewall, a virtual firewall that Oracle Cloud implements for you on your public subnets. And basically we can allow source communication from everywhere on TCP with different destination ports, like for example from here to this port, 80. We will open that, for example, for an HTTP server. And after that, we are ready to go into the details that basically will be to create that on Oracle Cloud. So let's put the diagram aside, and I'm going to go to my Oracle Cloud web console, open the menu, network, and I'm going to click on Virtual Cloud Network. Virtual Cloud Network has two buttons, so basically it will be to create a VCN, and that is creating a VCN from scratch. You will have to create all of these components that I'm mentioning. For this small demo, I'm going to use the wizard. So the wizard is just the typical patterns that we have in terms of networking. Either VCNs with internet connectivity or private with VPN. In this case, it has a little bit more complexity because it has an IPsec VPN connection, and that will be your CPE. That basically is just the representation of your on-premise virtual machine with the VPN server. In this case, we are going for the VCN with internet connectivity. That basically is the graphic that I just described. We start the Vcn Wizard, and we are going to go through the steps. So basically it will be to put the name. The name is going to be my network in a compartment. Remember that all the resources on Oracle Cloud has to be placed in a compartment. That is a segregation, a logical segregation of resources. And it's going to automatically tell you some recommendations in terms of CIDR blocks. So we are going to have the 10.0.0.0/16 for the whole VCN, and then it will be with 00/24 and 10/24 for the private subnet. And that's all. We can go next. review that everything is created. It's going to tell you exactly everything that is going to be created. You can double check that. So we are going to have our Internet Gateway that we mentioned, Nat Gateway and a Service Gateway that I haven't mentioned. It wasn't in the diagram, but it's basically to communicate to Oracle services. So for example, an autonomous database, object storage, and that communication will go route through the Service Gateway. So it's not traveling through the internet, through the public internet. Let's create. It's going to create all of them. All good. So we are going to have the green light saying that everything was created. View Virtual Cloud Network, and we are going to step into our brand new network. Something important that we have to keep in mind is the security. By default, we only open port 22 for SSH connections. So if we create our virtual machine, a Linux virtual machine, we are going to be able to log in into that machine with SSH. And we can actually inspect that to test that is true. So if we go to the public subnet and I go to the security list, there will be a default security list created for me. And if I step in, I will see the Ingress and Egress rules, just as a normal firewall. And I will see that I have a destination port 22, and that will allow a remote login with SSH. There is other Ingress rules. They are for networking protocols like ICMP, basically just to make sure that we have fragmentation in case if it's needed, or we have destination reachable notifications, things like that. So for the moment that is fine. If you want to enable ping, for example, you have to create another rule, ICMP rule, with the echo response and echo reply, so we are going to be able to do a ping. But that is all for the network part. I mean, I can show you how to create a Ingress rule. In that case, we can say everything that is connecting through TCP from any source port and goes to 443, for example, is allowed. So that means that I can reach machines inside of that subnet with 443. I'm going to delete it just to clean everything and leave it as default. And there is another way to establish network security, and that is with network security groups. It's basically a fine-grained firewall. And that means that I can create a network security group. And the advantage of this is that all the security list, Ingress and Egress rules are going to apply to all the virtual machines inside of a subnet. That is fine in most of the cases because we are going to split our virtual machines that do the same thing inside of one single subnet. So all of them will have the same security posture, but it's not always the case. Sometimes we have different virtual machines with different purposes inside of the same subnet. And in that case, maybe we want to create a network security group, like web server. We are going to create that web server network security rule, and we are going to indicate that CIDR block with 0, once again the source, is going to go to TCP on any source port and destination 8443, both. And that means that if we create that web server network security group, we are going to be able to select virtual network interface cards, basically the card, the network card that it can be attached to the virtual machine. And we can say this security rule, this network security group, is going to be attached to that VNIC. And that means that that virtual machine, and only that one, independently of how many other virtual machines are on the subnet, are going to have that security posture. And that is really interesting in some cases. So I invite you to just go through this, play around. There is many things, DNS zone management, traffic management steering, in case you want some disaster recovery, or for example, you want to split your request in 2 different regions, HTTP redirects, fast connect for private connection with your on-premise infrastructure. There is VPN connections that you can enable from here. Just play around and enjoy it. If you have any question, let us know. Thank you.